Hey guys, so I finally have some projects to share. Although I've only gotten 2 cards done the past 2 days, and the rest of it was done over 3 weeks ago. So, um, it's been some adjusting to the new job, and I've been switched over to nights now, so it's adjusting to the new schedule, whereas I leave at 10 p.m. now instead of waking up at 3:30 a.m. to leave at 4. So it's a whole lot of adjusting. Let me just say that. Um, and also my glasses broke, so if I fumble around for things, I apologize. Of course, it couldn't have broken in the center of the bridge. It had to break where it's welded together. And unfortunately, my mother's soldering gun, or soldering tool thing, is in storage. So, okay, so enough with that. I got some hammocks made for the rats. I still have a bunch more, or 2 or 3 more cut out, pinned together, that are waiting to be sewn. One is actually on the machine that's like 2/3 done, but the needle broke, and I'm waiting for my mom to fix it because I'm too lazy to research on how to do it myself. So, some of the hammocks turned out really disastrous. Some of them turned out pretty darn good. Some of them were just way out of proportion as to what I needed, but that's okay. So, the first one that I did, way too big. This was my first double-decker hammock. And double-decker is basically like a tube, and then it has a flat top so that they can lay on top also. Why it ended up being this big is because I had the final strip left of this corduroy cap fabric, and I didn't want to cut it up because if I cut a piece off to make the hammock smaller, it wouldn't have been large enough to make a decent regular hammock out of. So, it would have been wastage essentially, and I didn't want that. So as the end result, I ended up with the hammock that's large enough to fit 25 rats or a baby potbelly pig. But I figured it'd just give them more room to beat each other up in. And just pink fleece on the inside, and then these, I think it's bias tape. I got this hot pink bias tape from Shea, and I just made the poles out of it. So, and hopefully this coming Thursday, I will be ordering their cage. I wasn't able to order it last pay period because I wanted to send my auntie some money because she's been taking care of us. Okay, so this one didn't turn out, it doesn't look atrocious, but it didn't turn out hot. It didn't turn out very good. I learned that not all fabrics can be paired together. So I was kind of thinking about the saying that Thomas Edison said about the light bulb, that he didn't fail. He just found 10,000 ways not to do it. So, I wanted to make some summer hammocks for them because it can get hot here during the summer. And I didn't want them having to sleep on fleece. That wouldn't have been very comfortable. So, I had a pair of my Nana's jeans, and I cut those up, hopefully, and I'll probably forget, but hopefully I'll remember to wash these hammocks separate the first time, because these were brand new jeans. I just had a cotton fabric on this side, and anyways, it just didn't sew up evenly, so you've got bubbling. I don't know what the technical terms are, but the jean, even though I cut them to the same length, and I'm sure it's because I'm a novice sewer and I don't know what I'm doing, somehow the cotton piece shrunk a little bit and the jean piece just became longer and then it got all fudged. So it's not pretty, but you know, they're rats. I'm sure they won't mind. And then I just used bias tape for the thingies again. Okay, here's one. It's another jean one. This one I stuck fleece on the side. What I seem to be having trouble with, and this goes especially for when I was using jeans on one side, is the corner I kept open to flip it right side out. I had trouble sewing a nice even, you know, tucking it under, keeping it tucked under so that I could sew over it and it being nice and neat, and it just wasn't happening, especially with the jean fabric, the denim fabric. Yeah, and I took out the belt loops because I wasn't gonna do that, but then I was like, you know, some freak disaster accident's gonna happen and they're gonna stick some body part through the belt loop and then they're gonna hang themselves. So I just decided to cut those out, even though it made a hole in the denim. Okay, so this one was my first tube. Yeah, it's gonna be a very narrow tube, so they could run through it. I'm not sure how well they'll be able to sleep in it, but they'll have something to run in and chew on. And this one I used some old stretch denim jeans of mine that were no good anymore, and after I had cut out the pieces for this hammock, I was like, you know, I probably shouldn't use the stretch denim because it has little tiny strings of elastic going through it, and when they chew it, although my rats don't seem to be chewers yet, but I'm sure it'll happen just as soon as I'm not expecting it. You know, there's going to be the little denim string, so when and if they chew this, I may have to take this one out early. Okay, this was my very first pocket hammock, and this was the prime example of me learning that certain fabrics just should not marry each other as far as trying to sew them together. And it's a total disaster. This is my first, I think I said this was my first pocket hammock, and I can't even tell you how how atrocious my sewing was on this. So here's my very first pocket hammock. Obviously the sides are not even to even the slightest degree. But they can still burrow in it and chew on it if they want to. So, yeah. This fabric and the jean and the denim fabric just did not like each other. I had a heck of a hard time just finishing this. So, anyways, I won't stay on that one too long. Here was my second attempt at the pocket hammock, and it turned out so much nicer. I used fleece on the inside. The other one was intended for a summer hammock. That's why there was no fleece. And I just used ribbon for the poles. A couple of these were meant to be just regular hammocks, but I'd forget to put the poles in the corners before I'd sew the first time around, so I'd have to turn it into a tube or some other kind of hammock. So here's another tube This one's a little bit bigger, so hopefully they'll be able to sleep in it. I don't think it's thick enough. You know, it doesn't have the stiffness it needs to have to stay tubular. But hopefully they'll like it. Oh, I did cut this one piece off that big strip of the giant double-decker hammock. I can't cut any more off it though. Okay, so this one was a triangle hammock. And the thing that I learned in this hammock is that if you're going to make different shapes, such as a tube or a triangle, that you really need to have much more layers than 2, and you also need to have stiffer fabrics and not cotton and corduroy. So I have so much of this green corduroy. Sewed this together, and then I was like, oh, that's probably not going to work. So my plan is, when I get the giant cage, is just to have it clipped to the side, because it's obviously not going to work hanging. You know, they're not going to, no. So if I clip it to the side, then they can, you know, still go in it and sleep in it and chew it and pee in it and, you know. Okay, so here's another jean denim one. I keep saying jean fabric. Denim fabric one. This one I forgot to stick the ties in the corner, and this hammock was too small that I couldn't turn it into something else, like a tube or a double-decker. So what I ended up doing, I have no clue what this is. I've had it for a long time. I think I got it from my mother. But it's like a woven nylon, extremely thick ribbon of some sort. But I just sewed it back and forth. And so that's what I ended up with. Okay, so that's the last of the hammocks. I'm sure you're quite glad about that. I did manage to get 2 cards done. So here is the first one. I'm going to go ahead and wheel it down. Or maybe I'll wheel it up a tiny bit. There we go. Basically everything on this card I got from Bonnie, except for this is a handmade painted paper on the back. If I can hold it still enough. And this border matte paper was from a paper pad that I won from Karen Sue. But everything else came from Bonnie. This was a Halloween treat holder. You stuck a sucker through his hands, and to cover up the holes, I just stuck some Francis Meyer candy corn stickers over it. I tried watercoloring it with my new fancy distress inks, but it just wasn't working, and I think the problem is I keep trying to watercolor on something that is not watercolor paper. So I really need to buy some watercolor paper, because I keep trying it. And it's like, you know, it's like I don't learn my lesson the first 40 times, and I keep trying it. So I ended up just scribbling it in roughly with some Sharpies. Those flower layers I got from Bonnie, I just inked them and spritzed them, and that Brad was in my mind's eye I got from Bonnie. And then that's a rub-on that I got from Bonnie. And then the card base was from her, and I took one of the stamps she gave me, because I didn't want to cut into another piece of paper, and I didn't feel like pulling all my 6x6s down that day. And I didn't have anything in my scrap bin that would go, that was large enough for the color scheme would work for this card. So I just stamped spider webs on the edges. And I think it turned out cute. And on my painted paper, I just use paints that I don't hardly use because they're glossy. They have varnish in it. I use a bunch of fabric paints on it. And then these are little foil bits from those nail art bottles you get from the Dollar Tree. And it doesn't come off. If anybody wants me to do a little demonstration, I can do that. I was just playing around one day and I figured out how to get this to stick and not come off. And it's relatively cheap. Extremely cheap, actually. And then I just stamped the envelope because I had the stamp out. Okay, so one more card. I started cutting out, I don't know what made me want to start doing this. Oh, I have a piece of pink scrapbooking paper in my scrap box that says baby all over it. Baby girl or something like that. So I decided I want to start making some baby cards because I don't have any on hand. So I started cutting out these onesies. And I've only made one card so far, but you know, more will come. I can't see real well, and doing this last card today was a struggle. So it's looking like I'll be blind for a couple weeks, which I don't even want to think about because I have to get new glasses. So this is the card base, came from Bonnie. This first mat behind here was just cardstock. And this pattern paper, it's a polka dot. Came from the Prima Botanical stack. And all the onesies, excuse me, this is my tiny scrap paper basket. This is where I stick all the super tiny scraps that a normal person would throw away. I found all of my tiny scraps and cut all my onesies out of there, so I didn't have to cut into my bigger scraps in my bigger scrap holding tote. So, and I don't get into the tiny scraps as often as I'd like, so I try and get into that whenever I can. And that's where all these little onesies came from. The onesies are from a Sizzix die Bonnie gave me, a thin one. Like this. And so is the congratulations. And this was just a piece of scrap. I don't even know what you call it. String, woven string from the Dollar Tree. Okay. So I guess that's it. I hope you like my cards. Hopefully I'll have some more baby cards coming soon. But like I said, it's a strain to do anything. Just to have my eyes open really sucks. Not having any glasses. So not sure if I'll be posting any more videos until I have glasses. We'll see. I was gonna do a scrap room, although it's not really a scrap room, a scrap wall tour to show how I have things set up, but I think I'm gonna wait until after I get in the Critter Nation cage because it's giant and it's gonna force me to move things around, but it actually should help me a little bit because I'll be able to stick stuff on top of it. It's going to be like 5.5, 6 feet tall. I don't remember the exact dimensions, but I'll be able to stick all my ribbon bins on top of it. So that'll be nice. Okay, thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you later.